Hi, I'm Abby from RTINGS.com, where we've tested over 300 monitors. One of these is the AOC Q27G3XMN, a 27-inch gaming monitor great for those on a budget. So let's see how this monitor stacks up and ultimately answer whether you should buy it. But before we get there, let's look at the design. This monitor has a straightforward design constructed entirely out of plastic. There are some nice red accents to add a bit of flair, but it isn't heavy on the gamer aesthetic. The bezels are a bit thick around the sides and the bottom, and we notice some warping on our unit between the screen and the bezel, but it's not too bad. You'll find the power button and controls along the bottom right of the screen. The menu is pretty basic and gives you quick control of your screen settings. The stand is the biggest problem area of the design, as its footprint is fairly big. The feet stick out well past the screen, and there are smaller feet on the rear of the stand that also stick out quite a bit. That's fine if you have a larger desk, but you'll be pretty cramped if your desk isn't deep. It doesn't feel like you're about to break it when you swivel it around, and movements to adjust the screen are smooth. In terms of its range of motion, this monitor is fantastic. You can adjust the height, rotate it to portrait mode, and swivel it horizontally and vertically to best suit your viewing angle. The stand also has a cutout for cable management, so you can thread the cables through the back to any of the inputs along the bottom of the screen. There aren't too many inputs, just two HDMI 2.0 ports and a DisplayPort 1.4 input. If you want to kick it old school, there's also an audio jack. So that's the design. Now let's see how this thing performs for gaming. This monitor supports FreeSync over a DisplayPort or HDMI connection and G-Sync with DisplayPort. It also has a low frame rate compensation feature for the VRR to continue working at low refresh rates. There's a bit of flicker with VRR enabled, and it's most noticeable in dark scenes. In terms of response times, the AOC Q27G3XMN is fantastic. It has a max refresh rate of 180 Hz, and motion looks smooth without much blur. Motion continues to look smooth as you drop the refresh rate, though there is a bit of overshoot at 60 Hz. There is smearing, especially with dark content, but that's normal for a VA panel. We recommend using the medium overdrive setting for the best results, which worked well regardless of the refresh rate. The input lag remains incredibly low, no matter the refresh rate, guaranteeing a responsive gaming experience. Since the HDMI ports only support a 2.0 bandwidth, you can't take full advantage of next-gen consoles like the PS5 or Xbox Series X or S. Thankfully, the monitor downscales 4K signals to 1440p, resulting in a more detailed image than native 1440p content. To sum it up, it performs incredibly well for a budget gaming monitor. But how good does it look? This monitor is a bit of a rarity in its price range, as it uses full-array mini LED backlighting rather than edge-lit backlighting. Thanks to this, the screen has excellent peak brightness, pushing around 1000 nits. That said, small highlights are a bit dim, and overall the PQ EOTF tracking isn't great, as most scenes are darker than intended. When using HDR, all settings except overdrive, adaptive sync, and overlay are locked, so you can't make too many adjustments. Similarly, the brightness and SDR content is good. It's definitely bright enough to fight glare, but like with HDR content, smaller highlights dim and can get lost. Otherwise, the matte screen coating helps to reduce glare and reflections further, so it's certainly good enough to use in a bright, well-lit room like a corporate office space or next to a window. Thanks to the mini LED backlighting and VA panel, this monitor has excellent contrast and great local dimming. It has 336 dimming zones, so the deep blacks and bright highlights look good next to each other with minimal blooming. The local dimming feature has 4 settings, but we recommend medium, as strong improves the contrast, but at the cost of increasing blooming and black crush. That said, the local dimming algorithm keeps pace with fast-moving objects pretty well, though there can be some residual artifacts after bright objects disappear from the screen. After calibration, the color accuracy of this monitor is incredible. Our unit had a red tint out of the box, which might not be the case for all units. Also, gamma is slightly off, so you'll need to be a bit aggressive in setting the RGB values to improve accuracy. If this monitor has a downside, it's the viewing angles. They just aren't good. On the horizontal axis, images wash out quickly, making co-op gaming on the same screen a bit of a problem, as the image will only look good to whoever's sitting directly in front. On the vertical side, the image looks inconsistent at the top and bottom edges if you're sitting too close. And when you consider the size of the stand, that might be your only option if your desk isn't long enough. Although this is primarily a gaming monitor, you'll likely still use it for general work or browsing, so good text clarity is important. That's the case here, and if you're on a Windows system, you can enable ClearType to further improve clarity with bolder lines. Finally, this monitor works well with macOS. Using a DisplayPort to USB-C connection lets you take full advantage of this monitor's 180Hz refresh rate, VRR, and HDR performance. But if you're using an HDMI connection, you're limited to a 144Hz max refresh rate, and VRR doesn't work at all. So that's worth keeping in mind if you need those features while using a Mac. So that brings us to our main question. Should you buy this monitor? Short answer, yes. It's a great gaming monitor with some good features that are hard to find at this price point, especially the full array mini LED backlighting. It is a bit skimpy with features, so this is a good choice if you're looking for a basic 1440p entry-level gaming monitor. Of course, this monitor has some bugs like black smearing, and its viewing angles can certainly be a problem for some. There's also the question of availability. This monitor goes in and out of stock frequently, so if you can find it for a sub $300 price point, that's the best time to pick it up. Otherwise, you might be better off with the, oh boy, Acer Nitro XV275K P3BII PRUZX. Whew, I've done eye tests that were easier than that. This mini LED monitor is hard to find and comes in at a higher price than the AOC, but it offers some performance improvements, including the fact that it's a 4K monitor. It gets brighter and has wider viewing angles, and it supports HDMI 2.1, so you can get the most out of your consoles. That said, the Acer is best suited for a single monitor setup, as there are handshake issues in a multi-monitor setup that affect the usability and performance of the monitor. Besides, the AOC has a faster response time and lower input lag, so it'll be better for gaming anyway. Well, that concludes our review of the AOC Q27G3XMN. If you're interested in learning more, check out the written review on our website. Until next time, I'm Abby from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. This monitor is fantastic. You can adjust the height, rotate it into portrait mode, and swivel it horizontally and vertically no matter what direction to best suit your angle.
That's the blooper. That's the blooper. I'm sorry.